Right, so we showed you a lot of stuff. So first of all, big hand for the AV team. This all worked. Let me tell you, this was all live, it was all real. Nothing was pre-recorded. We were going to pre-record everything to have videos in case it didn't work, and we ran out of time for that. So we were flying without a safety net, and I will sleep easy tonight. So thank you to the AV team. Thank you to all of you for the incredible efforts that you've put in the last 1 to 2 weeks. In many cases, the engineering that you saw here, all live, was done literally in the last few days. Nobody, I think, had more than 10 days to work on this since we had the units in our office. So thank you very much also to the brewery staff, not only Chris, but also Adam and Paul, our experts, Adam particularly, who's been helping us with all of these logistics. So with all the thanks, and there'll be more thanks to come later, but I wanted to now give you, the audience, the chance to ask some questions about what you saw and to have our presenters here respond to those. So if we have, I don't know if there's a question first.
I'm gonna be the mic pass around.
I'm Mike. I'm still hot.
Hi, my name is Mike Wilkes. I'm curious, what enabled the HMT-1 now? And the demonstrations you've done are very impressive, and the quick adoption of the partners.
I guess that's a question for me. So what enabled the HMT now? I think, you know, this is my fourth startup. Timing is everything in, you know, in bringing technology to market. I think we benefited from a lot of work that was done at the Kopin Corporation. We benefited from, if you like, perhaps the less than expected success of Google Glass One. And so a lot of people were searching for something that really fit an industrial need. I also think that, you know, we look at all of these things, workflow, video collaboration, IoT, AR, they all have their own time cycle. We just have a unique confluence of timing. I think that's part of it. I also think that, you know, we've executed all of us on stage well. Yeah, let's see. I mean, I think it's still early days. There's years to go, but I think that's it. Let everybody else go ahead.
Yeah, from the software side, as you saw, we basically rolled out what we call VRG3. It's just a nice way to say we're not on version 1, but so one of the things that we first found, because we've been doing this about 3 years, is how easy is it, how quickly can somebody get a device up and running like the HMT-1? And so we've gone iteratively through a number of iterations to the point now where if, like I said, if you had a phone or an HMT when we showed up last Thursday, literally we went to the store, downloaded it, it produced a key, we put it on the portal, and in a couple of minutes, it was turned on, it was working. So that was a licensed handshake as a registered asset that's trackable. And I didn't show it, but you could GPS it and on and on. But the point is, on the software side, what's the evolutionary step to take that, make it easy to get that device online so somebody can start using it quickly? So we evolved software-wise through that, and that takes time. And I think you stood on the shoulders of many hardware innovations and patents, and you brought it to market. So it is about timing. On the software side, we needed devices to evolve through the software evolution, and I'm sure other people have done similarly.
Anybody else?
So yeah, I mean, what we've seen is, you know, in years past, a lot of these innovations happen in research labs to industry. But we see that it's kind of flipped around. We see that the consumer space and the technologies that people are very familiar with are now coming into the industrial space. So that pressure was coming as well, along with the timing of the hardware.
And our perspective on this is that, you know, we're both a software and a hardware company. So first of all, we have an appreciation for what it takes to build hardware, especially IS hardware as well. And you know, we're deployed not only on our hardware, but sort of device agnostic things out there. And one of the interesting perspectives we've had with working with RealWear on this is that people have been talking about wearables for a long time. They've been talking about it in industrial settings for a long time. And we were struck by the fact that when we first engaged with the team here, they were completely unrequested by us saying, there's this problem and here's how we solved it. And what they were doing is basically saying, we know this hole exists in the hardware that's out there today, and here's our solution for it. You know, the completely hands-free thing is hitting a note that is fantastic. And so, you know, I can't say enough about how impressed we have been with the team and with the capability of the HMT.
Yeah, so
I think I got this.
you got it?
Yeah. Can you hear me all right here? Yes. From my aspect, you know, it's funny because a lot of people want to solve the most difficult problems, right? And I think what industry is waking up to is you don't have to do that. I mean, you can make incremental steps. You can get out and you can start solving easy stuff right now that's going to make a big impact. That's one of the reasons why we love the HMT device at PTC, is that it's ready to go out and to start enabling workers today. And we feel that we have a similar product offering with ThingWorx. So you combine the two, you get it in the hands of people to go make an impact right away. So the time's now. A lot of, as you saw with that slide, you know, 1,000 companies are out doing, you know, pilots right now. They're finding little things that they can implement into their organization that's going to make an impact today.
From my side, am I on? Okay, I got 2 microphones. Okay, so from my side, obviously all the innovation on the device is really great. I don't think we've mentioned cloud computing, because what that's enabled, if you go back maybe only 3 or 4 years, people were really having difficult choices about what data they wanted to capture because the cost of storage was still quite high. How do you process gigabytes and gigabytes of data when your computing power is kind of limited? Well, what cloud computing has enabled recently with the things like Google Compute, AWS, Microsoft Azure, is you can now capture all that data and then do really cool and great things with it in the world of machine learning. Well, you can only capture the data if you're on the ground. So I think the devices like what the RealWear HMT-1 is going to allow people to do is to capture even more data, because we're at the right time now where we can do things with that data. So it's really a collaboration of many different things that are all coming together at the same time. A lot of work has gone into the device today, but people don't really buy hardware anymore, they buy solutions. And the solutions from all different sides, both the hardware and the software, it's just a really exciting and great time to be. So, go team.
All right, do we have another question? Do state your name and company, Dan.
Dan Hudson with Nokia. I'm interested in what you guys see with the remote worker software as being the next challenges or enablers to have this whole thing take off in this market with this type of device instead of smartphones.
So I guess that's specifically for you, Gary, and for you.
So one of the things that I'm going to reuse is V excited about is obviously the device. I think this is a really pragmatic and very usable device that's going to open the floodgates for the solution. So being in Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, we're looking at the continued value chain, and it is towards a solution. So one of the things with that as a general backdrop, one of the very specific things is we bought a company 2 years ago, Aruba Networking, and Aruba Networking is an amazing Wi-Fi capability that extends not only in the data center and in buildings, but all the way out to the edge. And they have something called beaconing. And beaconing is they're very small little devices, and they talk to access points. And when you have 3 access points, you can triangulate exactly where somebody's standing. And so what we're working on is in our software with the HMT-1, when you walk up and get close to something, we will know what you're standing next to. So you can barcode, but you won't have to. So we'll know who is using the device. We'll know what they're standing next to. We'll have already known because we're collecting information, metadata about that machine on back-end systems. I think they're actually from PTC that collects that, right? But it's all about the IIoT, such that by the time you connect the problem that's happening with somebody that's the SME, like Chris was today, we're already going to have so much more information available to solve that problem even more quickly. So I'm very excited about this value chain that goes beyond what we can do today to turn this into a complete solution that's really going to be, remarkable, I believe. So there's a huge, HP sees the intelligent edge, or this IoT as a huge TAM, and we're pushing along that value chain. So I hope that made sense, yeah?
So Dan, great question. What you asked was, what's going to make this take off? And we're here, we all love technology, but I'll tell you, technology is only half of it. And Andrew mentioned this earlier, it's about friction. So one of the challenges to utilizing this fantastic technology that we've all collectively developed is reducing the friction of people adopting it. And the easier it is to use, the better the hardware is, the more seamlessly that can integrate into the daily workflow, the more that's going to take off. And we've actually seen over the last couple of years, the conversations change. Even over the last 18 months, there's a much wider understanding and belief versus a comment like maybe 2 years ago, oh, this is really cool technology, we're not sure how we would use it, to I'm looking for something just like this. And underlying that, a couple people touched on today, there's some demographic shifts that are going on. You're taking a 58, 60-year-old person who's got 35 years of experience, and they're walking out the door for the last time. And they're taking all their expertise and all their knowledge with them. And you're trying to replace that person bodily with somebody who's 25 years old, lacking the experience, lacking the knowledge, and fundamentally learning in a different way. So as the baby boomers exit the workforce, then there's this little tiny Generation X, like us, that are in the middle, and then there's a massive group of millennials that are almost equal in size to the baby boomers. So what you're doing is jumping from one huge group to another huge group that have completely different skill sets, aptitudes, and tools. We're going to see an onslaught of a shift as a result of that. And it's happening, actually it'll happen within the next 6 years, if you just look at the numbers.
Next question. There's one over here.
So the gentleman from OSIsoft highlighted that you're kind of leveraging what's happening in the consumer space around wearables to the industrial space.
Right.
But what Gartner and Forrester have highlighted recently, and everyone in this room, and you just highlighted again, have said, there's this mass group of baby boomers that are retiring,
Sure.
and they need to train the others down below, the millennials and everything like that.
Sure.
But what the reports are showing is that people over 40 are year over year increasing in wearables, whereas under 40, they're decreasing in wearables in the consumer market. How do you guys intend to combat that trend, given how you're trying to target that audience?
Maybe I'll take a crack at that. I think the consumer market and the enterprise industrial market are fundamentally quite different. Clearly, there's some common technology that is applied to both. So we're obviously leveraging a lot of smartphone technology. It's a Qualcomm Snapdragon chipset that wouldn't exist were it not for the consumer market. Accelerometers are in all kinds of devices. But there's a lot of, if you like, common technology based for the consumer. Then there's a bunch of stuff that's very different. Consumers don't have to solve the kind of noise speech recognition problem that we're solving here. We've chosen limited vocabulary, speaker independent, high noise. It's probably not what you want for Siri, but it's the right choice for this particular use case. And so I think they diverge. And so I think if I would say why is the adoption less in consumer wearables, and I think some of that is smartwatches that didn't really take off to the extent predicted, and some of it is that we just don't have a use case that's compelling in the consumer market. Whereas it's taking off, I think it hasn't quite taken off yet, but I think it's poised to take off in industrial enterprise because the use cases we've heard about today are real use cases. They solve real problems. And it's not a fashion statement. You're wearing your hard hat anyway. I mean, we like to make it look as nice as possible, but you're already wearing your hard hat, you're wearing your safety glasses, you're wearing your hearing protection, you're wearing a mask maybe, you've got all kinds of stuff, you're wearing fluorescent clothing. So it's not like, the objective is to minimize the size of the camera so nobody gets upset that you're taking a picture of them. It doesn't really matter in that environment. So it's as we like to say in England, it's horses for courses. And I think our company at least is not focused on consumers at all. So anybody else?
Yeah, I would, my view is maybe a bit parochial, is that when I think of consumer wearables, it's my wife and daughter just got iWatches and they absolutely love them. I mean, that's to me consumer wearables. It's Very cool. Contrast that, I was just in London at our very large user group. There was over 10,000 customers in London, and I did demo after demo. And one gentleman came up and he said, I have 50 manufacturing sites. And he said, I can ROI your software and the HMT-1 in the first month. So, I mean, the ROI is there once people in the enterprise, I think it's the enterprise play is what we're interested in. You can ROI it if you can believe it's real and does it really work. And so I think it's taken, I've been pitching this for about 3 years, over 3 years, and it takes time. I think a lot of folks, is it really real? Does it really work? Is it secure? Can I deploy it? But the ROI, if you can get past that, and we're starting to see people, Dave Packard, and I told it, Dave Packard says, how do you know you have something of value? He said, people will pay you money for it. And we're starting to see people pay us money for it.
Yeah, I mean, that consumer comment that I made was really around kind of the personal mobile device being very kind of contextual to the individual. So as you look in the industrial space, right, we still haven't quite commingled that, but you can see that start to happen with some of these millennials. So when you ask them a question, the first thing they do is they pick up their phone. I mean, that's how I see my kids doing it, right? So that's the first place they go and look and ask for questions.
I think from what we see, the attitude the older you get is, well, we've always done it that way. So in fact, I think on the enterprise industrial side, it's probably going to be flipped, right? At home, yeah, you can do what you want, and maybe it's more predictable for more of an older generation, 40 plus, to take the wearables because perhaps they're easier to understand because these younger people, I mean, I guess they use lots of crazy apps that change every week, right? So from the enterprise and the industrial side, echoing what you've just said over there regarding you're wearing the hard hat anyway, so you're going to use it. But I think in the industry anyway, technology adoption is greater at work the younger you get. So I wouldn't put too much focus on what people do in the consumer world because, you know, this is a whole new world.
Next question, another question, maybe anything about the demos we saw specifically or an industry that we haven't talked about yet. We've talked a lot about brewing, but there's lots of other industries. I'm sure that the group here would be happy to brainstorm on applicability to any specific industry you may have in mind.
Careful about bringing up beer.
Yeah,
We're getting there.
We're getting there.
Chad Amity from American Airlines. It may be a question for everyone, but loss of connectivity, is it on anyone's radar? Because we have all the time, I mean, real world examples, one terminal's getting construction and AT&T repeaters go out, the mechanics under the cockpit E&E bay, and all of a sudden, you know, work step 3 just goes blank, you know, what do we do? So just wondering what's being worked on for loss of connectivity, temporary caching, downloading possibilities, anything like that to the device.
If I could start with that one. I always say we've got 3 tenets to our software, and the first being occasionally connected, and I have to give credit to Mike Haley at BP for that. It's a big word over there. And when you're on an oil rig or you're in a refinery, you're not getting internet. And in the middle of the Atlantic, the satellite, if it's up, it's down more than it's up, right? So what we do with Workflow Plus is the work instruction is downloaded to the device before you can execute it. And that's on purpose because as sure as God made apples, as they say, it's definitely going to go down. So we know, and we've seen it in the demos today, that the data is cached, you can go through the procedure, and the device is always remembering what exactly is happening at that point. And as soon as you can get that Wi-Fi, that 4G connection right up, we send the data, as and when. I mean, clearly the kind of real-time element to that is debilitated. But we built it knowing that we're going to be occasionally connected, device agnostic, and our customers are not programmers. And we make sure that no matter what it is we develop, we fit with those 3 kind of rules.
So we see the architecture being very tiered, right? So you're either close to the edge because you have poor connectivity, or you're to the cloud because you want that elasticity of the cloud, or you're within the enterprise because it's connected to the rest of your enterprise. So as you have those multiple tiers and that connectivity is a factor, absolutely, you could cache and resynchronize, but that's not always so simple. But that's the idea, to keep them synchronized depending on the use case and being able to be flexible with the architecture up and down.
we've run into a similar situation. Obviously, we've built a platform that if there is connectivity, even if it's minimal, we can perform. But yes, there are always places where either it's not available or for IS reasons it can't be there. And we basically did a very similar approach where we developed what we call deferred collaboration. So you can do all that capturing on the device, step into a place where you do have connectivity, and then run it as if that was coming off a live stream.
Yeah, to echo a little bit, our architecture, because it's basically asynchronous, what we do is when we first connect you saw today, we basically bolt up a TCP/IP connection, and we keep that. And then we say, can we take you peer-to-peer? So if you're on the same network, on the intra, we then go peer-to-peer, and then we perfect it to UDP, but we gate the UDP. So we really are continually trying to perfect to get the optimal solution. But we always keep that TCP/IP back channel so that if you ever disrupt the connection, we go back and reconnect you. So we've spent a lot of time trying to keep you connected and keeping you, we were going between the Wi-Fi and the wire, and we were just pulling off, and it would just find it and reconnect. We are synchronous, but we do have an asynchronous. You can get into a room if no one's in there, and we have taskless and asynchronous connection if you want to do something like that. But at the end of the day, if there's no network, our solution doesn't work. But I think that's probably a pretty generic statement, right?
One thing I'll say from the device perspective is it's a tablet. It happens to be hands-free with a special display and a special voice recognition, but it's a tablet. So just like all tablets, you can store a lot of stuff locally. So when we, in the case where you can't do a live video call, you can probably record the procedure, because we have up to 256 gigabytes of storage available if you put a micro SD card in. You could record a lot of video there, and then when you get back to Wi-Fi, you can sync those videos. And then at least you have the recorded procedure available, and someone can look at it afterwards. Any of these forms type applications like Interwares or workflow applications, almost all of the good ones like Interwares has this download procedure and then sync. It's a sort of sync experience. You can sync when you're back in connectivity. Android was designed for this, a long time ago. It's pretty easy to do disconnected and connected scenarios if you write your application correctly. Another thing you might want to do is, if you access documents from the cloud, again, if you don't have a cloud connection, you can't download them, but you can pre-cache them. You can, with 256 gigabytes, you could probably store almost all the documents you might ever need in your company locally, and just update them when they change, right? So disconnected scenarios are definitely important. Poorly connected scenarios are important. Just like a tablet that has USB ports, when someone comes up with a LP-WAN, narrowband IoT, LTE class 0 modem, well, they always come out on USB dongles first. Plug it right in. Now you've got another network, right? I mean, it's a tablet. You can extend it just like an extended tablet. Like, it's exactly the same.
So I agree with pretty much everything that everybody said on the panel, but to take a slightly different look at it, I see it as an opportunity, right? So I had the opportunity to spend about 15 years in wireless connectivity, and I bet there's at least 3 people in this room right here that are thinking about business plans around 21 billion devices that are going to be connected in 2020, right? So there's definitely going to be a convergence of 5G and IoT in the future. Those standards are being written, and IoT is going to be one of the main target areas that 5G can support. There's alternative protocols that are very well suited to support low latency, low data rate type sensors. So you're going to see people come up with really good ideas to support this industry from an infrastructure standpoint.
All right, I'm sure we can take a couple more. Anyone else? Industry that we haven't heard from yet?
Thank you. My name is Jitender Huda. I'm from ITC Infotech. We are partnered with PTC on IIoT and IoT ThingWorks. We are really big fan of that. And what I saw today, it's really very exciting, and I think it's the need of time, especially what I see, and the customer really going from mobile side to hands-free. One, I have more of a technical question. We have built, some app using augmented reality and IoT. They are like on Android-based, and everything is for the mobile and iPad and all those gadgets. If some customer is really looking for this kind of solution, it is really straight portable. The pre-built some solution can be straight portable to your device, or you have a SDK or some kind of rework. That is number one. Number two, I heard that it's Android. Do you also have plan if there is a iOS-based app, and that can also be ported? And if you can allow me, the third question is on the security. Do you kind of really package the kind of security which normally other devices, the handheld devices have? Because many of the customers may have this concern that, okay, one thing is we know that the people already have the phone, iPhones or other phones. Here we are investing in new hardware thing. We are not just looking at the application thing, it's a new hardware. How it is going to actually pose a challenge on the security concern? Thank you.
Okay, there's 3 questions there. I'll see if I can answer them all. So the first one was, is there an SDK and how do you create apps? Chris Parkinson, our CTO, is going to cover that in the very next talk. I'll very briefly say, not to steal his thunder because he's so good at doing it, that there's no SDK. It's Android, and all of the magic you see on voice recognition is done by our system with metadata around the app. And so Chris is actually going to show you how to voicify an app in front of your very eyes if you can read code. Not all of you can read code, so we'll keep it short, but we'll show you. The other thing I'll say on that point is the partners here, all of our partners here, didn't have very long to get your stuff together, right?
Couple days to get it to recognize the amazing voice recognition on the HMT. So what we did is spend a couple days, and now we can speak to it and turn on any of the buttons inside of our app. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. If I could say, I'm sorry, I can't see you. Hi there, James. Our application is written in C#. We use the Xamarin platform from Microsoft, and that allows us to have an iOS, a Android, a Windows application. So from our perspective, speaking personally, we have C# code running on the server, in the cloud, on the devices. The RealWear device just picked it up and ran because Xamarin compiles to Android. Everything was really great. So to answer your question about iOS, if you write your apps in Xamarin, and I highly recommend you do, it just works.
And I'll echo that. We had our prior version of VRG was written in Java, and we completely rewrote that app in 4 months in Xamarin. And that's why it now, echoing, runs on iOS and Android. And takes advantage of Android 6 and all the beautiful things on the HMT-1.
Anyone else got something to say on that? Otherwise, I'll try to go to question 2. So question 2, I think, if I can remember, was will we do iOS? So Apple doesn't license iOS, so the answer is we won't build an iOS product because no one but Apple can do that. But yes, there's companion apps. So one of the things we haven't shown you yet is there's a companion app that runs on, right now, as of this moment, it runs on Android, but we plan to do it on iOS as well. And it does some simple things like gets you on the Wi-Fi quickly, because it displays a QR code with the Wi-Fi credentials that you can scan in one step. And we'll expand that over time so that you can do more connected scenarios. For example, one thing that's not in the product today, it will be, by the time we ship, is the ability to connect it to your phone like you connect your car to your phone. If you connect your car to your phone, you can make phone calls using the phone book, hands-free in your car, because you speak with voice recognition. If you have a modern car with CarPlay or Android, I forget what they call it, Android for cars, car Android, it's got a name. Then you're syncing your phone book. You can have a voice experience with your text messages. All of that is what we plan to do. So you probably, if you do have your phone in your pocket, whether it's iOS or Android, you'll be able to interact with it hands-free. By the way, we have the world's most expensive Bluetooth headset. It works as a Bluetooth headset. It has 4 digital noise-canceling microphones. It has some of the most sophisticated noise-canceling algorithms in the world in it. You can tether it to your phone, and you'll have the best phone calls in high noise you've ever had. Kind of expensive if that's all you do with it, but it can do that. I think the third question was about security. It's a great question. And it has a simple answer, and it's the same answer I've given before. It's an Android 6.0 tablet. So what does that mean? It means that it's possible to get secure Android. It's possible to use Trust Zone and have secure boot. It's possible to run pretty much any MDM platform that runs on Android 6. We will have our own cloud that does a certain amount of the secure provisioning of applications and secure provisioning of credentials. But if you can secure your Samsung phone or your, any other Android device, and if your IT department has come up with a way, maybe it took them a few years, and maybe it took a while to get to this point, but as of 2017, there are known solutions to secure Android smartphones and tablets in enterprises, even including the DoD. And all of that stuff works because we haven't changed Android 6 at all. We've layered on top of it, and we've built some custom drivers and some custom speech recognition, but everything else is Android. We're not reinventing any of that. It all still works. Okay, any other questions? Yes.
One more.
In the middle.
Here we go.
Hi, I'm Aaron. I'm actually with PTC and sitting here listening to a bunch of experts talk about where we might be taking this and what to do. I was curious what your guys' thoughts might be on, classic methods of consuming and delivering information like the web that won't quickly be disposed of, is how you think that this device or publishing of information might change the way that we interact with website pages that deliver information that people have to walk to machines and get, and they're still going to have content and information out there, but do you see that change in the way that we interact with something that's already there, or even the publication of things like via SharePoint and other classic document storage systems?
I'm going to do a final presentation. I'll be the last man standing between you and the bar at between about 4:55 and 5:15, and I'm going to cover some of the future vision around what we think of as the 21st century UI. So I'll defer until we cover that. Anyone else? Okay, so I'll talk about a couple of things a little later on. One over here, Dan, again.
Maybe I can just go, Dan, with Nokia again. Can any of you guys describe what the learning curve was like for the voice commands? Like a 2-word set, as you put your application on, you guys curious what that experience was like. How long does it take?
I've been doing this for nine years. The secret is any voice command needs to be distinct from another voice command on the system. So I'll tell you an example from, I don't know how many years ago this is. If you had two commands, next page and previous page, the system is listening in chunks. I don't know how many milliseconds it is now, but it's listening in chunks. It may miss the first fraction of a millisecond of a voice command. So therefore it looks at the second word. If you've got next page and previous page, it's going to hear the word page. So it probably will work out which one it is, but the recognition rate is going to be a little bit lower. So the way you get around that is you say page left and page right. The second word is completely distinct from each other, and therefore that's a lot easier to do. The secret is, though, 2 words and with maybe 3 syllables. Because a word like yes or okay or no and so forth, it's always listening to you, so it's going to do its best. But we are writing commands here, so 2, 3 syllables, I think you'll find. And you'll see in all the demos that everyone has done that they have been kind of 2 syllables, 3 syllables, that kind of thing.
Yeah, honestly, the toughest part was actually learning to speak a language, which most of us accomplished when we were 2 years old or something like that. So after that, it's been just, again, very natural. So that part is, the heavy lifting's already been done.
We read a couple of pages that RealWear published, and we were suddenly experts of how to get their device to recognize our commands. It was the first word you kind of get it fired up and might throw it away. So have multi-syllable type commands, and we got this thing working very quick. Very impressed. So yeah, if that was to your question, but that's how we got our app to recognize, and all the commands work fine.
Again, and Dr. Chris Parkinson, one of the world's experts on this topic, will be speaking next, so he'll show you. All right, I think maybe I can take maybe 2 more, and then we'll wrap this session and proceed steadily towards happy hour with 2 more things after this. Maybe 1 or 2 more, and then we'll wrap this. Any others? No? Any last comments from the esteemed panel that we haven't covered that you'd like to say?
Yeah, just again, thank you to the RealWear team and to Chris for the brewery, and thank you for all of you coming and giving a chance to have some really solid conversations about how we can help your business as well.
I'll have an IPA in about 15 minutes back there at the bar.
All right, so the success of this event is all the conversations that happen whilst that IPA is being drunk, from 5:15 till whenever you guys leave, but we're certainly willing to go for 2 to 3 hours if needed. Thank you again to all of you, not only for the demos you did today, the practice you did on Sunday, the practice that you did on Monday, sending our engineers to our office, and really committing to get this done. I'm very proud of what we've all achieved, and thank you so much. Okay. Thank you.